Here now, Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. He sits, of course, on the House Judiciary Committee. Good to see you, Congressman.
Good to be with you, Ed. And though I don't aspire to opine on someone else's marriage, it certainly is worth noting that Kellyanne Conway is critical to the Trump communication vortex, as she's a patriot. And frankly, I'm grateful to every member of her family, her husband included, because the burdens of public service are felt by an entire family. And Kellyanne Conway was assaulted when she was with her daughter. Imagine how George Conway must have felt when his wife and his daughter were in such a precarious situation.
Assaulted by a citizen, you're saying. Obviously, we're not talking about the marriage some months ago in the state of Maryland.
Right.
You mentioned that you're not going to get in the middle of marriage. Why has the president got in the middle of their marriage then?
I don't know. I think it's very frustrating for the president to see the difficult circumstance that Kellyanne has put in. She obviously is one of the most trusted advisors in the White House, and not just within the White House, but beyond. A lot of us get data and information and context and benefit from her brilliance. And so I think it's frustrating for him to see George Conway be so critical when Kellyanne's been such a part of the great success that's driving the country. The economic news you just mentioned, getting out of wars, renegotiating trade deals, and creating one of the most dynamic senses of optimism that the country's had since World War II.
Why is the president not focused on all of those things that you say are so wonderful in the country right now? And instead, doesn't this open the door to you and I tonight and others talking about the fact that George Conway, and I want to answer you to answer this directly as an ally of the president, he says that the president of the United States has, quote unquote, narcissistic personality disorder.
That is not true. I spend a lot of time with the president and talk to him, and the president is deeply caring about other people. And so obviously that's a view held by someone who doesn't get to see how the president really, I think, feels for the country and does a lot to make sure that people live better lives. I agree with you. I don't think that it elevates the presidency or the country to be talking about somebody's marriage. I think the president should focus on the amazing economic success he's having, the renegotiating of trade deals, and really the fact that we roll into a 2020 election cycle where Republicans are more enthusiastic than Democrats, and with a lot of good reason.
Real quick, last one on the Conways. I wonder if, having covered President Obama and his White House, if there was a woman working in a senior position in a Democratic White House and her husband was attacking her on Twitter, if there would not be a lot of people in the media saying, why is this man attacking this woman and not allowing her to be strong and stand on her own 2 feet? It seems like everybody's jumping all in on this guy who is attacking his wife and not letting her be what you just said, the senior advisor of the president.
There is a double standard for women in power oftentimes, and there's a triple or quadruple standard sometimes for conservative women. And I think that's one of the reasons why colleagues of mine like Elise Stefanik are trying to do everything we can to find conservative women that we can elevate within our party. Kellyanne Conway and Sarah Huckabee Sanders are the most well-known Republican women in America, and that's why I think the president gets so defensive when he feels like either Sarah or Kellyanne are unfairly under fire.
And Kellyanne Conway still has not gotten much credit at all in much of the mainstream media for winning that presidential campaign, the first woman to win a presidential campaign. But quickly, I want to move on to a couple other topics. Number one, you were admitting a moment ago that as an ally of the president, you wish he talked more about the economy, maybe less about the Conways. Why is he talking about John McCain, who's been dead for a few months?
The president believes that one of the reasons why we lost the midterms is that we didn't repeal Obamacare. And we still have a lot of Republicans and just Americans around the country who are frustrated and feel like the Republicans let the country down by failing to fulfill that promise.
Okay, but pardon me, sir, why not go after Mitch McConnell?
He feels very betrayed by John McCain.
Why not go after Mitch McConnell or Paul Ryan?
Mitch McConnell voted yes.
Yeah,
those
but they
people
didn't get
voted
the job
yes to
done, is
repeal
my point.
Obamacare. John McCain voted no. Well, look, but they were there driving the agenda. Look, I've often been a critic of those two individuals, but they were doing everything possible to get Obamacare repealed, and it was John McCain, I think, more wanting to stick it to the president than reflect even his own beliefs. I mean, John McCain ran on repealing Obamacare, and then with no real reason and with no real warning at the last minute voted against it, and I think it's reasonable for the president to be very frustrated and let down by that.
Despite all these other issues, the president appears to be in good political standing. I talked about the economy numbers in the CNN poll. Also, enthusiasm among Republicans, stronger in the CNN poll than among Democrats. And then you have Democrats giving the president all kind of fodder, whether it's Medicare for all, how are you going to pay for it, the Green New Deal. And then the issue of abortion. Here's what Beto O'Rourke said on the campaign trail. Listen.
For or against third trimester abortions?
So the question is about abortion and reproductive rights. And my answer to you is that should be a decision that the woman makes about her own body. I trust her. So that's my answer.
So he's one of the darlings of the left right now, and he's saying third trimester, go for it.
Beto has to win a primary before he gets into a general election, and frankly, that answer is not going to hurt him when you look at how far the Democratic Party has lurched to the left on the issue of life and abortion. I wonder if Beto O'Rourke also believes it's between a woman and a doctor if a baby has been born and survived an abortion. 19 times Republicans in Congress have tried to get the Born Alive Protection Act heard. 19 times the Democrats have objected, and so as the party moves so far to the left, third trimester abortions, allowing babies to be killed even after they're born, it won't hurt Beto to say he supports late-term abortion, and that's a real sad thing.
Real quick last thing, there's another Democrat in this race, Kirsten Gillibrand, who's now saying that she's got legislation to sort of get in between patients and doctors to deal with the opioid crisis and wants to dictate how long you can get certain drugs. My colleague Britt Hume noted on Twitter last night, I thought when it comes to the issue of abortion, for example, we hear over and over, don't get, and you see Britt's tweet right there, that you shouldn't get between a patient and a doctor. I'm all for doing something about the opioid crisis. All of us want to. But how can Democrats all of a sudden say they're going to dictate to doctors how much medicine they can dispense?
The answer to the opioid crisis is not more government, it's more freedom. In every state that's democratized access to medical cannabis, you see fewer opioids prescribed, you see a lower percentage of opioid deaths. And so it's always such a Washington way to say that to solve problems, we need to tell people what they have to do. The reality is there are different solutions that work for different states, and we do not want to impair that doctor-patient relationship with more government. We never make things better when Washington inserts themselves in the doctor-patient relationship.
And as you say, there may be an issue of hypocrisy in there as well. Congressman Matt Gaetz, we appreciate you taking the tough questions tonight.
Thank you, Ed.
The View under fire for fueling this ridiculous conspiracy theory about the First Lady. Watch.
I wasn't going to go along with this, but that one in that picture doesn't look like her.
You weren't going to go. Now you will.
No, it's a different shaped face.
I'm ashamed to say, I spent like an hour on Saturday involved in this.
That's her.
Melania is a very tall, statuesque woman. And the one that we saw, the first one that we showed, she looks kind of short. Not this one, but that one.
Well,
look how short she looks.
Could be in flats. Her husband's like 6'7", and a stable genius. President Trump slamming those body double rumors by tweeting, quote, the fake news photoshopped pictures of Melania, then propelled conspiracy theories that it's actually not her by my side in Alabama and other places. They are only getting more deranged with time. A spokeswoman for the First Lady is blasting the show as shameful. So, Jesse, let's say it's true. Let's say it is a fake Melania. Wouldn't you love to have a fake Jesse take your place?
We have one. It's
one day a week.
He's here right now.
It's David Schwimmer. No, I mean, I hate to say this. I kind of do agree with Joy. Can we put the screen back up there? I mean, put the screen back up. There is something very suspicious. Of Melania. If you look at the mouth, there's a difference in the mouth, and there's a little bit of. Hear me out on this. There's a little bit of a height difference. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No. The thing, Greg,
is that Caitlyn Jenner with the president?
No, I think what it is that Melania, you don't need a body double if you're Melania. If you're a model, there's no such thing as a body double for a model. It's just called another model. I mean, like, if there was an actual body double for Melania, she'd be much more famous and have a much better job than being a body double for Melania. But this is Trump derangement syndrome. Remember the other conspiracies? We remember that Trump was going to hand the reins over to Pence, and that Trump is a puppet of Putin, or that it wasn't his real hair. Do you remember that
Trump was from Kenya?
Let's see the birth certificate.
You beat me to the punch.
I knew I wanted to take that joke from you.
I'm done.
There was also a rumor that he and Hillary were having a dalliance during the 2016 campaign.
Did Bill know?
Of course he knew.
And he didn't care because Bill was doing his own thing, which was actually true.
That is true, not fake.
Okay, so but Katie, what is the subtext here? That the First Lady has pieced out, and that she actually is on permanent safari, that she can't stand being around the president because he's so horrible, and for that he should be impeached.
It's just really stupid. I mean, she can't catch a break, right? So if she wasn't doing all these initiatives that she's doing on her own, as her own person, building her own thing, she would be accused of just being a Stepford wife, right? And just doing whatever President Trump wanted her to do because she doesn't have a brain and can't function on her own. She goes out on her own and proves that she's her own person. She's done all these trips. She's gone overseas. She's capable of talking and speaking and pushing the things that she wants to talk about. And then they still criticize her. So I think it's just petty. There are other things that they could be talking about. And I find it really interesting that the women who are always saying, you know, the women who don't help women are going to hell, decide to engage in this kind of behavior.
You know, Juan, isn't Katie right? Leave her alone.
Yeah, so tell that to President Trump. He's the one tweeting out about this and raising it. It seems to me he delights in the idea that he somehow...
Wife. Wouldn't you do the same?
He's not defending his wife.
Certainly
This is not. He's defending himself against the charge that he has a double for his wife because, as you suggest, maybe the wife doesn't want to be there.
Which is an insult to her.
I don't see it's an insult.
And an insult to their marriage.
To me, this is like, you know, kind of conspiracy theory wackiness. And I don't know, it's a distraction from the reality. Let's say, how about the vote in which Republicans will say, hey, you know what? That wall, that emergency, bogus.
Greg?
Okay.
You know, I was actually... What bugged me where people were making jokes about the picture, different jokes about how humorless and unfun they looked together, without pointing out that they were actually at a really somber event. They were there to of a natural disaster. But you have to be fair. Conspiracies are bad on both sides. And when you become a team sport political player, you get into this little prison of two ideas, and so your immunity to conspiracies goes away because you want to believe. So right now what you're seeing is a lowered immunity among the view, because they hate this guy so much that this has to be an imposter. But likewise, we have had our share of these kinds of conspiracies because we had such deep dislike for the other side.
Well, I mean, we never did see the president's transcript. Remember? Yeah. And how did he get from Occidental College all the way?
And is that his real name? I don't know.
What if Jesse doesn't think the birth certificate's real?
What if
the long form?
What if President Obama releases his grades as an olive branch to the president who releases his tax returns? Would you accept that?
Not a fair deal. I'm not going to take it.
So what about,
I think we're going to be able to find the transcripts without having to give the tax returns.
Okay, last question. What happened with Melania? What happened with Melania? Did he lock her up?
Did he lock her up? Is that a body double? No. Not a body double.
It's not a body double.
Wow, this is where the conversation goes in times when people want to ignore real news, I tell you.
Oh, Juan Williams is just a sage.